An update on CM Punk's status with All Elite Wrestling, as his suspension has caused major changes for AEW All Out, including scrapping a main event title match against Absolute Ricky Starks. We've got details on what Starks is going to be doing instead, as a segment has been announced for this weekend's episode of AEW Collision. The Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles will also be on the line this weekend as MJF and Adam Cole defend their titles. We'll let you know how we're going to get there. MJF will also be defending his AEW World Championship at Grand Slam later on next month. Details on a tournament that's been announced to determine the new #1 contender to face MJF. Orange Cassidy has retained his international championship last night on Dynamite. He'll be facing Jon Moxley this weekend at All Out. Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli will be facing off in tag team competition at All Out. FTR and the Young Bucks will be teaming up after facing each other at All In. They're going to be facing Bullet Club Gold in an 8-man tag this weekend. The Ring of Honor World Television Championship will be defended as well in Chicago as Samoa Joe puts his title on the line. The Acclaimed, they've unveiled new scissoring trios championships last night on Dynamite. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara have reunited as a tag team. We've got the ratings for this week's episode of NXT on USA Network, and Xavier Woods is dealing with an injury. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. Let's start off talking about CM Punk and an update on his status with the company, as well as plans that seemingly have been scrapped for AEW All Out. Obviously, needless to say, the CM Punk situation has altered some plans for this weekend's AEW Collision and AEW All Out. Now, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select says that he still has no confirmation on whether or not he's going to be at either event. We'll have to wait and see. Now, they have heard that Brody King, this is again coming from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, that Brody King was, quote, very heated about the CM Punk-Jack Perry exchange, but they weren't given many more details beyond that surrounding the House of Black member. Wade Keller had reported much of the same, and that Brody King had punched an object. Now, they've not confirmed that, but he was using the arm he doesn't usually use during some of his match, although some have said that he actually hurt his hand on a spot involving the guardrail. We'll have to wait and see if we get any more details surrounding that. Now, as reported, the CM Punk and Miro interaction was largely said in jest, and it was more sarcasm, and a game of telephone took over, and the situation was relayed. It wasn't basically what happened. Punk was under the impression that he and Miro were on good terms. It looks like they still basically kind of are, despite Miro's tweets after the incident in question at the weekend. Now, the face-to-face here happened in the trainer's room after Punk's match, and actually Brody King was present for that as well, suggesting that there was never any confrontation. It was sarcasm, and Telefriend, Telewrestler has kind of taken over when it comes to this. Now, as been mentioned previously, there was a lot of rushing to possibly change the first match at AEW All In. Pyro was actively being switched out, and some elements were being brought out for a different match in a hurry, just in case Punk vs Samoa Joe wasn't going to go on first. Now, when it comes to part of this too, there's been a lot of discussion about travel and CM Punk's issues at actually getting to Wembley Stadium from Heathrow Airport. Now, Fightful say they had gained a tip that Punk wasn't picked up from the airport for the event. However, he wasn't singled out, of course, in that case. But it isn't necessarily true that nobody was picked up, though. There were instructions relayed to talent ahead of the trip that with certain windows, they could be picked up. Outside of that, they could get Ubers and be reimbursed for it. Now, Punk and Jack Perry, in case anyone's still wondering, they are both definitely suspended. But Fightful had reported Tuesday that Punk had not been informed of the suspension and had learned about it online. He was later told by his lawyer. That was first reported by Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling. Now, Fightful, certainly Sean Ross Sapp, is saying that he's still looking to confirm the Tony Khan and CM Punk argument aspect of the evening that has been rumoured. That was put out there by Wade Keller from PW Torch, suggesting that CM Punk had blown up at Tony Khan prior to his match, and actually prior to this incident involving Jack Perry, where he was unhappy with the travel, he was unhappy with a lot of things, chewed him out in front of the talent, etc., etc. Whereas Punk at the moment, well, as we spoke about yesterday, Punk is at the Cauliflower Alley Club, where he was being honoured, and he was chatting up with several wrestlers. It's been pointed out there's been several pictures put out there of him interacting with the likes of JBL, Ron Simmons, and others. Now, the person that this is going to affect too is Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks' suspension was changed from 30 days to 28 days a couple of weeks ago, which is obviously completely kayfabed and almost over. He was never suspended. It was just part of the storyline. But Starks was being discussed, according to Sean Ross Sapp, for a huge match. Several people have inquired, asking if Ricky Starks was injured or anything like that. Fightful have confirmed that he's not injured. He was always planned to remain on television, with several ideas for him on the table. However, he wasn't booked and wasn't set to be booked for AEW All In, so the storyline made sense from that perspective, i.e., how can we make sure that he's off AEW All In because we don't have plans for him for All In, so they decided to go to the route of he's going to be suspended. Now, he was discussed, though, for a big match at AEW All Out against who? CM Punk. One of the matches on the table was CM Punk versus Ricky Starks for the AEW Real World Championship, which would have followed up their series of matches that have gone down this past summer. From what Fightful have heard and what they are reporting, it likely, given the location, given the town, the arena, the United Center in Chicago, most likely it would have been the main event of the pay-per-view, particularly now that we've seen the matches that have been announced for the show that we'll get into later on. It looks like certainly it would have been the main event. Now, there's no word on the status of the match now that CM Punk was suspended after his physical altercation with Jack Perry. Ricky Starks wasn't at Dynamite last night, so again, this match now looks to be scrapped, looks to be off, particularly when it comes to a segment that has been announced for AEW Collision. That involves Absolute Ricky Starks challenging Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to a strap match at All Out. Ricky Starks will show up on Saturday's AEW Collision and challenge wrestling legend and WWE Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to a strap match at Sunday's All Out pay-per-view, according to AEW President Tony Khan. Shortly after last night's AEW Dynamite, Khan took to Twitter to announce that Starks would be appearing in the middle of his 28-day storyline suspension, which was imposed, obviously, on Mr. Absolute for his actions on the August 5th episode of Collision, where he attacked Steamboat after suffering a loss to CM Punk. On that night, a frustrated Starks began whipping Steamboat with his own belt for allegedly costing him the match against Punk by breaking up his pinfall attempt when his feet were on the ropes. The momentary distraction allowed Punk to capitalize with a roll-up combination for the pinfall victory, further infuriating Starks, who proceeded to attack Steamboat after the match until Punk made the save. Despite serving a 28-day suspension, Starks has been appearing on Collision in a managerial capacity after he claimed to have secured a manager's license to manage other talents. As an example, Starks accompanied Big Bill to the ring for his match against Barry Morales on last week's show and even berated Steamboat in a post-match promo, promising to bring a bigger strap to this week's show as he whipped Morales with his bout. As reported previously, Starks was originally in line to wrestle CM Punk at All Out, possibly in the main event of the pay-per-view in Punk's hometown of Chicago. However, the match was nixed following Punk's alleged physical confrontation with Jack Perry at All In, which reportedly has led to both wrestlers being suspended. So what are your thoughts on all of this? What are your thoughts on the match at All Out, the main event title match being scrapped? What are your thoughts on Absolute Ricky Starks calling out the 70-year-old Ricky the Dragon Steamboat possibly for a strap match at All Out? Is there any possibility that this match could indeed take place, or could we still see CM Punk return this coming weekend at Collision and have the match at All Out before then serving his suspension? Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comment section below. Now, one match that seemingly is going to be taking place this weekend is for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships, because MJF and Adam Cole's first defense of the ROH World Tag Team titles has been revealed. On Wednesday's episode of Dynamite, a backstage conversation between MJF and Cole following their match for the AEW World Championship was shown. The Salt of the Earth revealed that a tag team battle royal would be held on Friday's Rampage to determine who would challenge the title holders at the All Out pay-per-view this Sunday. Among the teams that have been announced for the match are Aussie Open, Best Friends, Daddy Magic Matt Menard, and Call Hand Angelo Parker, the Hardys, Gates of Agony, the Dark Orders, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, the Righteous, the Wingmen, the Outrunners, and Action Andretti and Darius Martin. Of course, MJF dethroned Aussie Open on the All-In 0-hour pre-show at Wembley Stadium this past Sunday, ending Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis's first reign with the titles at a modest 37 days. Friday's Rampage will also see Sky Blue joining forces with Willow Nightingale to take on Ty Valkyrie and Anna Jay. Hangman Adam Page will also be returning to singles competition as he takes on the debuting Brian Keith. Now, speaking of MJF as well, he's going to be defending his championship at the Grand Slam edition of AEW Dynamite from Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. MJF is currently on vacation after his victory in front of over 81,000 paying fans at Wembley Stadium in the main event of AEW's All-In pay-per-view. In a segment filmed after All-In, MJF said there would be a tournament to determine the next #1 contender for his AEW World Championship, with the tournament winner facing him at the Dynamite Grand Slam special on September 20 at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. Initially, there were no names listed for the tournament, but later on in the night, Roderick Strong, flanked by his new allies, the Kingdom's Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, made it clear to his former friend Adam Cole that he hopes to accomplish what Cole couldn't at All In by entering, winning the tournament, and defeating MJF for the world title at Arthur Ashe Stadium. There is no word, though, on who the other 7 men will be in the 8-man tournament. So who do you think will enter the tournament, and who do you think will win and challenge MJF for his world title at the Arthur Ashe Stadium? Now, one match that also is confirmed for this weekend's All-Out pay-per-view is a big international championship match. Orange Cassidy's incredible reign as AEW International Champion continues as he retained his title in the main event of this week's AEW Dynamite. Cassidy faced off against Penta El Zero Miedo, who was looking to win his first singles title in the promotion, and the winner of the match would defend the title against Jon Moxley at this weekend's All-Out pay-per-view. Cassidy and Penta had a hard-fought match, with the two exchanging a few Canadian destroyers at the start. We had almost seen a new champion at the end of the match when Penta landed not 1 but 2 Fear Factor moves before Cassidy rolled and stunned Penta to retain his title. The international champion then cut a uncharacteristically passionate promo on the microphone. He said, quote, "I don't usually like to talk, but yet here we are. I am so tired, my body hurts, and every single time I have a title defense, the backpack gets a little heavier," said the champion. "But you know what? I'm here. I'm wrestling. I'm defending the international championship because this means everything to me." Cassidy, who has now successfully defended his title on 31 occasions and holds the record for the most title defenses in AEW, stated that he would defend his title for as long as he wished and sent out a warning to his opponent Jon Moxley. Quote, "I'm the champion and I will continue to defend my championship for as long as I want, and there's nothing anyone can do to take it away from me. Jon Moxley, you better bring more than just a fork, because I will always be the international champion because I'm freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy and I do not have a catchphrase," said the champion. Moxley then walked out to the ring and pushed Cassidy before the champion landed a blow to Moxley's head as the two butted heads to end the show. So what do you think, given the circumstances surrounding the original main event match? Is this the match that should main event this weekend at All Out? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Speaking of All Out, a tag team match has been announced for the show too this coming Sunday. AEW President Tony Khan announced after this week's AEW Dynamite that Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli will face each other at All Out, but in a tag team match. Khan disclosed on Twitter that Kingston will team with Kachisori Shibata to face Castagnoli and fellow Blackpool Combat Club member Wheeler Yuta in a tag team match on Sunday. This will be the second week in a row that Kingston and Castagnoli will get to lay their hands on each other after the duo were involved in the Stadium Stampede match at All In. Kingston, alongside Orange Cassidy, Penta El Zero Miedo, Trent Beretta, and Chuck Taylor, defeated Castagnoli, Yuta, Jon Moxley, Santana, and Ortiz at Wembley Stadium. On this week's Dynamite, Kingston defended his New Japan Strong Openweight Championship against Yuta and emerged victorious. After the victory, the champion tried to call Castagnoli, the Ring of Honor World Champion, into the ring for a fight, but the Blackpool Combat Club member completely ignored Kingston and escorted Yuta backstage. Kingston, of course, has been vocal about his disdain of Castagnoli time and again, and has demanded to face him ever since he lost to Castagnoli back in March at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor 16 event. Now, other matches confirmed for All Out we will get into shortly, but what are your thoughts on this tag team match, and where do you think the singles match between Eddie Kingston and Castagnoli is going to take place next? Speaking of All Out, another match has been announced for the pay-per-view this weekend. The AEW World Tag Team Champions and AEW Executive Vice Presidents are going to try to put the contentious ending to their match at All In behind them, at least for one night. In a backstage segment filmed on Wednesday night's Dynamite, filmed in the locker room after All In, FTR and the Young Bucks did their best to talk through why the Bucks declined FTR's offer for a handshake at the conclusion of their trilogy of matches this past weekend. Before the teams could truly get on the same page, they were interrupted by Bullet Club Gold's Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns, celebrating White and Robinson's victory over the Golden Elite at the historic event. The cocky White pointed out that there were 4 men in Bullet Club Gold and 4 men between the Young Bucks and FTR, and challenged the quartet to a match at Sunday's all-out pay-per-view at Chicago, Illinois' United Center. FTR and the Bucks reluctantly accepted the match, with Bullet Club Gold clearly excited to get their hands on FTR after their much-lauded tag team title match on Collision earlier this year. Where do you think this one is going, and do you think we're going to see a heel turn, possibly from FTR, possibly from the Young Bucks, especially after the Young Bucks refused to shake the hands of FTR last weekend? Speaking of title matches at All Out, the Ring of Honor World Television Championship will be on the line this weekend as well. Samoa Joe will be putting his Ring of Honor World Television Championship on the line against Shane Taylor this Sunday at the All Out pay-per-view in Chicago. Taylor defeated Gravity in the final of the Ring of Honor World Television Championship Eliminator Tournament on the August 10 episode of ROH on Honor Club to secure his spot in the bout, having previously defeated Serpentico and Christopher Daniels in the first and second rounds respectively. In light of that, he appeared via video on Wednesday's edition of Dynamite to put Joe on notice and remind him of his lengthy run with the title back in 2019. Taylor last competed in an AEW ring on the February 28 edition of Dark, during which he emerged victorious over Adrian Alanis. Meanwhile, Joe is coming off a loss to CM Punk for the Real World Championship at AEW All In on Sunday, and last defended his title against Dalton Castle at Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor last month. Speaking of titles too, we've got brand new Trios Championship bouts in AEW. On this past week's AEW Dynamite, the Acclaimed unveiled AEW World Trios Championship titles following their victory at All In. The Acclaimed had a party of sorts in the ring on Dynamite, which included a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Max Caster and Anthony Bowens then surprised Billy Gunn by introducing new titles, featuring a vibrant hot pink leather strap and scissors at the back. Quote, "In this house, we wear pink, which is why, Billy, if you take a look at these, the old titles, these are kind of dull," said Bowens. "So Max and I have a little surprise for you. Take a look at it. Beautiful 24-karat gold, a hot pink leather strap, and if you give me a quick little twirl, they scissor." Bowens then stated that the Acclaimed will be defending their newly minted AEW World Trios Championship bouts at this weekend's AEW Collision show. At the start of the segment, Billy Gunn also announced that Daddy Ass is back after a very brief hiatus. At All In, Gunn, Caster, and Bowens won the AEW World Trios Championships for the first time in their respective AEW careers, which was also Gunn's first title in the promotion. The trio defeated the House of Black in a no-holds-barred match. What do you think of the titles? Do you like the look, or are you not a fan of these custom championships? Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara are seemingly on the same page for now, even though it looks like they could be heading for a breakup in the future. There was a bit of dissension following Chris Jericho's match at AEW All In, where he lost to Will Ospreay as Jericho shoved Sammy Guevara. With Jericho summoning Guevara to the ring on Dynamite last night, he went on to apologize for getting sassy with Sammy after match. Well, almost. When Jericho threw out the possibility that perhaps he could have won if Sammy had hit Ospreay harder with the bat during his interference, Guevara clapped back. After a short but tense exchange, Guevara pitched Guevara on his ultimate idea for the duo: reunite their tag team Le Sex Gods and chase the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Sammy ultimately agreed, and things ended united between the pair for now, but seemingly it looks like they're on rocky footing. Where do you think this one goes? Who turns on who, and how long are Le Sex Gods going to last for before they break up? And I switch gears here and talk about WWE very briefly, because we've got the ratings for this week's edition of NXT on the USA Network. This week's WWE NXT saw a dip in the ratings, possibly due to NXT North American Champion Dominic Mysterio and his popular Judgment Day comrades not being present on the show. The group was responsible for the show's highest ratings in 2 years at the beginning of the month. WrestleNomics is reporting that NXT dropped 15% in overall viewership on Tuesday, as only 614,000 viewers tuned in to watch the beginning of the NXT Global Heritage Invitational Tournament. Ratings in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic dropped by 17%, with only 212,000 tuning in from the age range. The highest rated segment in the program in both overall viewership and the 18 to 49 demo was the second half of the opening contest, which saw the Creed brothers defeat the Dyad in a steel cage match and earn the Creeds their jobs back on NXT after the bitter feud with the Dyad and the Schism. The lowest rated segment was the section that featured numerous promos and Nathan Fraser's loss to Gallus' Joe Coffey in the Global Heritage Invitational. This news, of course, comes after WWE Ratings rose for last week's SmackDown tribute show, which was dedicated to Wyndham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt, and WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk. Finally, Xavier Woods seemingly is dealing with an injury after this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. Wow, let's get into this because the New Day's Xavier Woods suffered an injury on this past week's edition of Raw and will be out of action for a little while. Woods sustained the injury during the New Day's match with the Viking Raiders when Drew McIntyre, who was ringside along with Matt Riddle, threw a chair aiming at Eric, but unfortunately it landed on Woods. WWE released a statement on social media regarding Woods' injury, saying, quote, Xavier Woods suffered a cervical strain after getting hit with a chair thrown by Drew McIntyre. He is considered week to week and will miss the upcoming Monday Night Raw, said the statement. Woods announced on social media the day after Raw that doctors had advised him against stepping in the ring for next week's Raw. Quote, moments before I had a chair hurled in my face, giving me whiplash, doctor's orders, no wrestling next week. Was pumped to be out there on my birthday, but it looks like I'll be spending it at home next Monday. See you the week after. Of course, it remains to be seen if the injury is kayfabe or if the multi-time tag team champion is legitimately injured. Meanwhile, McIntyre and Riddle will face off against the Viking Raiders on the Raw after Payback. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a storyline? Do you think it's legitimate? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. But there you go, guys. It's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.